Imagine Ju In-gong, a pro gamer who just woke up inside the world of Night Saga Re. But there's a massive problem. He's now Shutra, the ninth prince and the absolute weakest member of the Demon King's family. His stats are lower than a normal person, he has no tutorial, and he's stuck in a world that is actively trying to kill him with no logout button in sight. Shutra quickly realizes he has a broken, unique skill. The protagonist has plot armor. He discovers that by experiencing attacks with his own body, he instantly learns them. After getting blasted by a red demon, he awakens telekinesis. After getting hit by his sister, he unlocks aura. He's literally turning a brutal beating into a speedrun to power. It gets better. Shutra unlocks a subclass, Knight of Conquest. With the skill Under the King's Banner, he can buff his orc soldiers into a fanatical killing machine. He uses his gamer knowledge to find hidden paths his enemies missed, leading his small patrol to a secret dwarven portal that even the game's original villains never found. Shutra tricks his siblings, the 7th Prince Chris and 8th Princess Caitlin, into an alliance. He even convinces Chris to teach him the Beast God Fist, an S-rank martial art. He's now just one level away from a massive evolution that only the game's protagonists ever reached. But the war just got personal. General Bandle reveals that the 6th princess, Felicia Doomblade, has been captured by the Scarlet Lightning tribe after a failed rescue mission by Dark Elf Dragon Riders. Shutra is now heading behind enemy lines to save his sister. Can the 9th prince rescue Felicia and break the game?
The story starts with a sneaker hitting the ground as a young man runs through a bright city. This is Ju In-gong. His parents named him main character because they clearly had high hopes for him, but so far it has only made him a target for teasing. Even though people in the shop laugh when they see him, he still wants to be the star of a grand story. It's a big dream for a guy who mostly just runs to the game store. The focus shifts to a game called Night Saga Re. It's your typical world of humans and demons. We see the hero, Locke, in armor so shiny it probably blinds his enemies, and the Demon King's son, Zephyr, standing in a dark, moody land. They go on adventures and finish missions, which sounds a lot more fun than whatever In-gong is doing in real life. In a dark room, In-gong sits at his computer. He has beaten this game 10 times and knows every secret, though that doesn't help him much in the real world. He puts on a new VR headset, the first of its kind, looking like a high-tech scuba diver. He sits in his fancy chair, crosses his arms, and plans to play for 8 hours. A blue light flashes, and the game begins, likely taking his social life with it. He wakes up in a room with a high ceiling and bright sunlight. He wonders why he isn't in a bed, since that is how fantasy games usually start. He looks at his hands and sees pale skin and pointed ears that look like they could pick up satellite signals. His hair is white and his eyes are red. He screams, "Who is this character?" He definitely didn't pick the guy who looks like he hasn't seen the sun in a decade. A big green orc named Karok pulls back a curtain and tells him to move because they're busy. In-gong thinks the graphics look amazing, which is a pretty weird thing to say to a monster that could eat you. In-gong asks for Karok's name, and Karok is shocked the prince forgot his own right-hand man. He is now Shutra, the Demon King's 9th son. He's at the bottom of the family tree, basically the backup for the backup. Shutra opens a status window in the air. He is 14 years old and at level 1. All his stats are at 5, which is actually lower than a normal person. He is officially the weakest person in the room. He sees a skill called Protagonist Setting Adjustment and hopes that will save his life, because right now, a strong breeze could probably knock him out. Outside, the camp is full of giant orcs getting ready for war. Karok tells Shutra they're going to kill the Scarlet Lightning bastards. Shutra is shocked. There's no tutorial, no practice, and no easy mode. He has to go to battle with his siblings, who probably wouldn't mind if he didn't come back. A loud, "rah" sound effect fills the screen, and the reality of war sets in. Shutra, Karok, and 10 orcs head out. Shutra thinks 10 people is a very small army for a war, but Karak says it's just a patrol. Shutra uses his mini-map and finds a hidden path that the orcs somehow missed. When Karak complains about the long walk, Shutra points to the shortcut. They head into a dark forest, with the orcs likely wondering if the prince has finally gone crazy or if he's actually useful.
They climb a steep cliff, and Shutra is sweating and breathing hard because his level 1 body is incredibly weak. They find giant stone doors at the top. Karak asks if he's a secret mage, but Shutra is too tired to even speak. Suddenly, a light flashes, and he levels up just for walking up a hill. It's the first time in history someone got stronger just by being out of shape. His stats go up to 7, which is still not great, but it's a start. He gains 2 skill points. He sees a message that says the protagonist has plot armor. He enters a dark cave with the orcs, hoping that the plot armor is thick enough to stop a real sword. He follows Karak into the dark, feeling a little better but still mostly terrified. Inside, they find a room full of gold and weapons. The orcs are happy, but the game tells Shutra his level is too low to use any of the cool gear. It's basically the game's way of calling him a loser. He feels insulted, but loots a spear anyway. It turns into light and goes into his bag. If he can't be a hero, he can at least be a very high-end thief. A red alert flashes on his map. A pink crack opens in the air, and a huge red orc named General Kai-chan steps out. He tells his army to kill everyone, and a big fight starts. Shutra stands there shaking with a tiny sword, looking like he's trying to remember if the game has an easy setting. He's definitely not ready for a boss fight. He tries to stab a red orc from behind to get some easy points, but his sword breaks instantly, like it was made of glass. The orc turns around with glowing eyes and a very mean look. Shutra runs away screaming, trips on a rock and falls. His health drops to 1. One more stubbed toe and it's game over for the 9th prince. The orc moves to kill him, but Karak blocks the hit with a shield. Shutra is frozen with fear, staring at his shaking hands. He tries to find the quit button to leave the game and go back to his room, but it's not there. He is stuck in a world that is actively trying to kill him, and there is no off switch.
The air in the cavern is thick with the scent of iron and the deafening roar of battle as the chaos from the last encounter continues. In the heart of the jagged stone dungeon, a desperate struggle is already unfolding, because apparently the orcs and red-skinned demons didn't get the memo that the prince is not to be messed with. A small, white-haired boy with pointed ears finds himself caught in the crossfire once again, though now he's bracing for impact rather than total surprise. Suddenly, the ground trembles. A massive, red-skinned demon lunges forward, hoisting a colossal stone mallet high above its head. With a terrifying cry, it brings the weapon down in a crushing arc. A blinding explosion of pink energy erupts from the impact, sending the young protagonist back like a rag doll. Classic welcome back to the chaos move. As he skids across the stone floor, his breath hitches. "No, I can't die here," he grinds out through clenched teeth, his crimson eyes wide with a mixture of terror and defiance. But the onslaught is relentless. Another surge of destructive power washes over him, his body silhouetted against a searing light as he screams in agony. He collapses, gasping for air, his vision blurring as the heavy thud of footsteps approaches. The demon leader, a hulking red beast with a jagged blade, charges toward his fallen prey with a murderous grin. The world goes dark. In the void, a cold digital reality manifests. HP 0/15. The life has been snuffed out of him. Again. But death is not the end. The boy finds himself drifting in a vast, silent abyss. Where is this place, he wonders, his voice echoing in the nothingness. I was sure the orcs took me down. Am I really dead? And before he can overthink it, a sharp thunk sound rings out, and a brilliant pillar of light pierces the darkness. From the radiance, a celestial, golden-haired figure descends, her voice resonating with ancient authority. You are the fated existence of this place, she declares, her hand reaching out as if to bequeath a legacy. Conquer, enslave, and then rule.
Before he can even process the weight of those words, the boy is pulled back into the world of the living. He wakes to the sounds of clashing steel and guttural war cries as the red demons continue their slaughter of the green-skinned orcs. The red demon leader laughs, looking down at the meager resistance. To think they'd come here with only this small number, he mocks. Are they ignorant or just stupid? Harsh, but not inaccurate. But his laughter dies in his throat. From the center of the battlefield, the golden aura begins to swirl. What was that just now? The demon stammers, his eyes narrowing. An awakening? Standing tall amidst the wreckage, the boy has returned, his body wreathed in a shimmering divine light. The demon leader is frozen in disbelief. How are you still here? A digital chime rings in the boy's ears as a system window appears. Telekinesis LV1 has been acquired. He stares at the glowing screen, his mind racing. When did I ever learn telekinesis? He looks deeper into the interface, seeing a new title etched into his soul. Subclass Knight of Conquest LV1. Seeing the boy as a threat, the demon leader points a trembling finger. What are you all doing? Kill that bastard at once! But as the red demons charge, the green orcs suddenly stop. Their eyes glaze over for a moment before snapping into focus with a new, fanatical loyalty. Protect the prince, they roar, forming a living wall around the boy. The prince must not be harmed. The boy stares bewildered as his former enemies now fight to the death to keep him safe. He stares at his status window, trying to make sense of the chaos. A Knight of Conquest isn't a standard class, so why?
Feeling a strange, ancient power thrumming in his veins, the boy draws a blade that pulses with golden electricity. Spells he never knew he possessed begin to echo in his mind. The power of conquest shall be the power of a king, he whispers. Raising his sword high, he unleashes his new authority. Under the king's banner! A massive shockwave of buffing energy ripples outward, enveloping every orc in the room. The effect is instantaneous. My strength is overflowing, one orc screams, his muscles bulging as golden light pours from his eyes. With a collective roar, the empowered orcs charge, sweeping through the red demons like a tidal wave. The demon leader watches in horror as his elite warriors are dismantled in seconds. This is absurd. They suddenly got stronger. He looks at the boy, standing calmly amidst the carnage, the truth finally dawning on him. Could it be him? A female red demon tries to intervene, launching a barrage of magical projectiles, but the boy's lead general, a massive orc named Karak, is already in motion. Go, Karak, the prince commands. Karak leaps into the air, his silhouette blotting out the dim cave light as he descends with the force of a falling star. The demon leader barely has time to gasp, "Wait a second," before Karak's fist connects, shattering the ground and sending the red demons flying. The remaining enemies break rank and flee in terror. "They're running away!" the orcs cheer. "Don't let a single one escape!" As the dust settles, the system windows begin to flood the prince's vision. You have leveled up. You have leveled up. You have leveled up. He stares at the rapid growth in disbelief. Why is my level? Nearby, Karak looks at his own hands, which are still glowing with the prince's buff. What exactly is this strength? He mutters, before turning to look at his new master with profound respect. Later that night, the prince sits alone in a lavish command tent, the camp of his orc army visible outside. He scrolls through his menus, his face pale. It's gone. No matter how much I search, I can't find it. There's no logout button. He tries to steady his breathing. Calm down. 2 possibilities come to mind. He contemplates the terrifying reality. Either he is trapped in a bugged virtual reality, or, though it sounds insane, this is his new reality. Everything feels too vivid. The background, the way the NPCs converse, and most disturbingly, the lack of any game-like censorship. What if this really is another world? He asks himself, his crimson eyes reflecting the flickering candlelight. Do I have to die here? He quickly shakes the thought away. He can't take that risk. But then, a smirk plays on his lips. At least I'm not an orc or an ogre, and for now, I'm a prince. I was born with a golden spoon in my mouth.
His musings are interrupted as the tent flap is pulled aside. It's Karak. "Prince, do you have some time?" the massive orc asks. Outside under the starlit sky, Karak explains his request. "Why are you suddenly demanding a sparring match?" the prince asks. Karak looks him in the eye. "You're going to be our leader. Knowing your swordsmanship level will help us prepare for the future." The prince sighs and draws a training sword. Is that really necessary? Karak takes a fighting stance, a faint smirk on his tusks. "Don't worry, I'll hold back as much as I can." The prince laughs at the irony. "Look at you, is that the kind of thing you say to a prince?" He lunges forward with surprising speed. "If you're going to fight, then do it seriously." Karak is genuinely surprised as the prince's wooden blade whistles through the air. The boy is a blur of motion, landing a flurry of strikes on the massive orc. But Karak's durability is legendary. With a sudden burst of speed, he counters, his heavy blow sending the prince flying backward. The boy hits the dirt hard, groaning in pain. "Ugh!" Karak rushes over, concerned. "Are you all right? You shouldn't have hit that hard all of a sudden." But as the prince looks up, a new notification appears. Basic Swordsmanship LV1 has been acquired. A realization hits him like a bolt of lightning. This is just like the telekinesis earlier. Do I acquire skills when I directly experience attacks with my body? Karak starts to step back, offering to end the match so the prince can recover. But the boy stands up, brushing the dirt from his clothes, a confident, hungry look in his eyes. He grips his sword tight and stares down the massive general. "Who said it's over? I'm just getting started." In the heart of a high-intensity training session, where the clashing of steel echoes against the damp stone walls, Shutra Ignis, the young prince with crimson eyes, lunges forward with a speed that defies his small stature, his blade whistling through the air as he presses the attack against his massive opponent. Sparks erupt with every impact as he trades blows with Karak, the hulking green-skinned orc general. And yes, this is exactly as chaotic as it sounds. Karak is visibly stunned, parrying a strike that carries far more weight than it should. His movements are much better now, the veteran warrior muses, his brow furrowed in confusion. He remembers the boy who could barely hold a sword, leading him to wonder, why was he so terrible at the beginning? It can't be that his skills suddenly got better. Well, Karak, welcome to protagonist logic. But Shutra isn't giving him time to overthink it. With a defiant smirk, the boy leaps into the air, bringing his blade down in a heavy arc that forces Karak to dig his heels into the dirt. After a solid landing, Shutra wipes the sweat from his brow, his confidence radiating. "How's that? Not bad, right?" he taunts. He then pivots to a more serious question. "Karak, what level are you?" The orc scratches his head, replying, Last time I checked, I think I was 21. Shutra's eyes narrow as he repeats the number, and with a flick of his wrist, he summons a digital interface only he can see. While Karak is a formidable level 21, Shutra's status window reveals he is only level 7. Despite the gap, the boy isn't discouraged. "Well, I should catch up soon enough," he thinks, a predatory glint in his eyes. In this world, levels are the absolute measure of power, but Shutra holds a godlike advantage. While normal people must rely on mages and costly evaluation spells to even guess at their strength, Shutra can see everything in real time. This system allows him to see all his stats and, more importantly, reinforce them using extra points, a massive edge that allows him to grow at an impossible rate. As they resume their spar, Shutra leaps high into the night sky, his blade silhouetted against the moon. Every clash of their swords is a step toward his goal. He knows that to survive what's coming, he must become stronger, much faster than anyone else in history, because, apparently, subtlety isn't in this prince's vocabulary. His urgency stems from a terrifying knowledge of the future.
Shutra knows he is living inside the world of a game called Night Saga, specifically the Demon Arc. The original story follows a character named Zephyr, a ruthless protagonist who eventually surpasses all his siblings to become the Demon King. It's a blood-soaked path that leads to a catastrophic ending. According to the game's lore, in the year 517, a day of massacre occurs, where Zephyr kills every single one of his siblings to achieve his ultimate goal. Sitting alone in the forest, Shutra realizes the gravity of his situation. The key word is all, meaning he is a dead man walking. It is currently the year 512, giving him exactly 5 years to change his fate. His priority is clear. He must become stronger than Zephyr before that day arrives. And no pressure, right? The weight of the future is interrupted by Karak, who finds Shutra brooding in the woods. "Prince, what are you doing here? I've been looking for you everywhere," the orc bellows. Shutra snaps back to reality, asking if something happened. It turns out he's late for a crucial meeting. "Did you forget there's a meeting today?" Karak asks, ushering the confused prince back toward the camp. Inside a lavish command tent, Shutra finds himself seated at a table, nervously laughing as he faces 2 of the most dangerous people in the kingdom. Sitting across from him are his siblings, the muscular, blonde 7th prince, Chris Moonlight, and the sharp-eyed 8th princess, Caitlin Moonlight. They are the children of Elaine Moonlight, the queen of lycanthropes, and in the original game, they were absolute nightmares to deal with. However, Shutra knows their tragic secret. Just like him, these 2 are destined to die at Zephyr's hands a year before the Great Massacre. As Caitlin calmly sips her tea, Shutra reflects on the hidden truth of her birth. She is a bastard daughter, a fact that will eventually lead to her downfall. To Shutra's surprise, the siblings aren't the monsters he expected. Caitlin immediately begins scolding him, her voice sharp with concern. "Why did you fight those guys without following the plan? I told you to just go on patrol," she demands. Shutra stammers out an excuse about not knowing the enemy's location. But Caitlin isn't finished. She stands up, her shadow looming over him, and commands, "Let's take a look at you." She leans in close, checking him for injuries with an intensity that leaves Shutra bewildered. Grabbing his chin, she warns him, "You're the weakest of us all. You should have been careful." Shutra can only offer a sheepish apology. He wonders why she's so worried about him. In his memory of the game, the Demon King's children were never this close. Even Chris chimes in, warning Shutra that he's in for a real scolding if he pulls another dangerous stunt. Shutra looks at them, genuinely moved. Are they actually kind? Feels weirdly wholesome, right? But he can't let his guard down. He needs power, specifically the aura that the lycanthropes possess in abundance due to their massive life force. He realizes that if he uses the same experience method he used to gain his other skills, he might be able to learn to manipulate aura just as easily. With a mischievous glint in his eye, he turns to Chris. "Hey, I have a favor to ask." The siblings look at him with deep suspicion as he makes a request that sounds absolutely insane to anyone else. As war rages across the mountains against the Lightning Tribe, with explosions and demonic roars filling the air, Shutra finds himself in a strange, ethereal dream. On the battlefield, the Red Demon Leader screams for his troops to kill everyone, promising rewards for the highest body count, while the Green Orcs charge back with equal ferocity. Amidst this mental chaos, Shutra stands in a dark void. A golden-haired celestial woman appears before him, her presence radiating power. "You are from..." she begins. Shutra is haunted by the silhouettes of legendary heroes he doesn't recognize from the game. "Who are you? I don't recall these characters in Night Saga," he thinks as the woman draws closer. He wakes up with a start, gasping in his bed. "Did I just dream?" he mutters, rubbing his head. His peaceful awakening is short-lived as Carrick's massive face appears inches from his own. "Ya up!" the orc roars, causing Shutra to scream in terror. And yes, waking up like this counts as extreme morning alarm.
As Shutra recovers, Carrick questions his recent behavior. "Why'd you ask the princess to hit ya? You kept whining, and look where it got ya." Carrick punctuates his sentence with a blunt strike to Shutra's head. Suddenly, a golden light erupts around the boy. A system window flashes. "You have obtained Aura LV1. Shutra's eyes widen in awe. I feel it. I can feel the aura." Carrick is floored. "Can you awaken your aura just by getting hit with it?" he asks. Shutra just smirks, confirming that his unconventional training worked. Classic Shutra, doing things the hard way, but it paying off. They discuss the recent victory against the Lightning Tribe, but Shutra's shocked to learn that he wasn't the one who led the main force. He thought he and the Moonlight siblings were the only ones assigned to the task, but Carrick reveals the truth. The operation was overseen by General Bandal. The name hits Shutra like a lightning bolt. Bandal is one of the strongest warriors in existence, and Shutra remembers him fondly as his best subordinate when he played as Zephyr in the game. A realization washes over him. Wait, this might be my chance. Bandal isn't scheduled to become Zephyr's subordinate until the year 515. Since it's only 512, Shutra can steal the general for himself. He knows everything about the man, his favorite rewards, his favorite foods, and his hidden talents. But he also knows the most important rule for recruiting a warrior of Bandal's caliber. You must defeat him in a duel. Shutra's eyes burn with a new ambition. If he can secure Bandal's loyalty now, he can change the course of history. He still has time. Looking at the silhouette of the legendary general, Shutra whispers his new vow. "First, Bandal, you're gonna be my subordinate."
What? The shout explodes through Caitlyn's camp as the impossible unfolds right in front of everyone. Chris, the blonde 7th prince, and Princess Caitlyn can do nothing but stare in stunned disbelief as Shutra, our ever-so-humble protagonist, calmly manifests a swirling sphere of divine energy in his palm. It spins, dense and radiant, humming with controlled power. Chris stammers, practically tripping over his own words, wondering how Shutra could have possibly reached the first level of aura expulsion in just a single day. One single day. Meanwhile, the rest of the camp looks like they just witnessed a fish start reciting poetry. But Shutra? He just wears that smug, infuriatingly satisfied smirk. To him, this outcome was inevitable. After all, he's been ruthlessly funneling every last system point straight into his aura stat without hesitation. No distractions, no side builds, just pure investment. He understands something the others don't. Aura is the ultimate foundation. It doesn't just look flashy and intimidating, it amplifies every physical capability across the board. Strength, speed, endurance, it enhances everything. Compared to that, his basic telekinesis suddenly feels like a starter pack ability. Chris begins sweating, and not subtly. He mutters under his breath, wondering if this absurd growth rate could mean Shutra is a Gandharva, because at this point, normal explanations have officially left the building. Quickly regaining composure, Chris pivots to strategy. He asks Shutra if he can produce an underground map of the tunnels. Shutra stays composed, admitting he doesn't have a physical map prepared. However, he does have something better, his system-enhanced minimap. Casually asking for a pen and paper, he gets to work. Within moments, the siblings are left speechless. The map Shutra sketches out is unbelievably precise, more detailed than anything their most experienced scouts have ever drawn. Every tunnel, every bend, every hidden path is accounted for. Chris bursts into laughter and claps him on the shoulder, calling the kid a literal genius. And honestly, he's not wrong. With this underground network mapped out, they now hold a decisive tactical advantage. The plan forms quickly. They'll ambush the Scarlet Lightning Tribe using these secret tunnels. The enemy has no idea the royal siblings are aware of their hidden routes. It's the perfect setup. But Caitlyn's sharp gaze suggests she isn't finished yet. She turns to her little brother with one final task. Soon after, Shutra finds himself in the mountains, leading a massive patrol of iron orcs. Internally, he grumbles about being the youngest and automatically assigned the most exhausting job. Of course, prodigy one moment, errand boy the next. Still, he knows he has to maintain appearances. He marches forward, playing his role. The orcs, meanwhile, are in high spirits. They laugh loudly, confident that their hard work, combined with these new reinforcements, will secure victory. The mood is almost celebratory. Then, Shutra abruptly halts.
Two figures in dark robes linger within the shadows of the mountain pass. His eyes narrow in recognition. Sis? Caitlin immediately shushes him, clearly attempting to keep her presence discreet. She explains that she's following from the shadows, just in case things spiral out of control. She wants Shutra to earn the credit for whatever happens here, so she'll only intervene if the situation becomes life or death. Shutra can't help but think she's being slightly overprotective, just slightly, but he doesn't reject the backup. Having a secret, boss-level sister in stealth mode isn't exactly a disadvantage. Together, they proceed into the looming darkness ahead. They descend into a vast cavern, its entrance yawning like the mouth of some ancient beast. The silence inside is suffocating, heavy and unnatural. Shutra quickly notices that the cavern has been stripped clean. He assumes the dwarves must have taken everything valuable when they evacuated. No tools, no supplies, just bare rock and echoes. He questions one of the orcs about the weapons they'd previously discovered here. Apparently, the dwarves didn't even consider those worth retrieving, which either means the dwarves are extremely picky or something worse is down here. As they push deeper by torchlight, the air changes. An orc suddenly whispers a warning. Something is approaching. Shutra immediately checks his minimap. His blood runs cold. The display is flooded with aggressive red dots. Not one, not 10, a swarm. Without hesitation, he opens his system inventory and retrieves a flash spell item he had deliberately saved for a critical moment. Turns out, this qualifies. Glowing red eyes emerge from the darkness. Massive stone spiders crawl from the cracks in the cavern walls, their jagged stone bodies scraping and clicking against the rock. Their movements are coordinated, predatory. Shutra recognizes the threat instantly. These creatures are pack hunters, armed with a paralysis poison capable of ending a person in seconds. "Now, close your eyes," he roars. He hurls the flask. A blinding explosion of divine light detonates within the cavern, transforming the darkness into something brighter than midday. The spiders shriek in agony, their vision overwhelmed and seared by the sudden brilliance. "Attack, everyone! Kill the spiders!" The iron orcs charge without hesitation. Axes swing, steel meets stone. Spider carapaces crack and shatter under relentless blows. The cave erupts into chaos. Battle cries, screeching monsters, and the sharp clang of weapons echoing through the stone chamber. But Shutra isn't finished. His eyes flick to the minimap again. One massive red dot remains, deeper within the hive. The leader. He calls for Carrick to follow him, and the two push through the chaos, advancing into the depths to eliminate the source. They soon encounter it, the Titan. A grotesque nightmare of layered stone armor and multiple twitching eyes, its presence suffocating. Carrick roars and lunges first, bringing his axe down in a devastating overhead strike. Clang! The blade bounces off with a dull, humiliating thud. Carrick stares in horror. The creature's exterior is absurdly hard, like reinforced steel layered over stone. The impact barely left a mark. Shutra immediately understands his mistake. He underestimated the thickness of their armor. He knows their one true weakness is fire, but he hasn't unlocked fire magic yet. The boss emits a low, grumbling growl, preparing to strike. "Use fire!" Shutra shouts desperately. But Carrick is just as stuck. No fire magic, no enchantments, just brute force, and brute force isn't cutting it. Then, from the shadows, "Shutra, raise your sword!" Caitlin's voice rings through the cavern. Without hesitation, Shutra lifts his blade.
In an instant, flames spiral around it, forming a raging vortex of intense heat and power. The sword becomes engulfed in blazing fire. Shutra's eyes widen. He hadn't cast anything. Behind him stands Caitlin, her aura blazing like a miniature sun, feeding pure energy into his weapon. "Is that enough?" she shouts. With her sister's power surging through him, Shutra launches himself toward the Titan. His crimson eyes flare with newfound intensity as he descends like a meteor wrapped in flame. The cavern flashes. A new name ignites across the scene. Burning Blade. The spider never stood a chance. Shutra carves through stone and darkness alike, flames erupting on impact as the Titan splits apart. Fire consumes the monstrous body, illuminating the cavern in roaring brilliance. A prince, reborn in fire. The dark caverns tremble violently as a blinding pillar of golden light erupts upward, shredding the lingering shadows of the spider hive in an instant. The oppressive darkness that once filled the cavern is completely overwhelmed by radiant brilliance. At the center of it all stands Shutra Ignis, crimson eyes wide, caught somewhere between disbelief and exhilaration as a divine chime echoes clearly through his mind. Ding! System windows flood his vision one after another, not just one notification, multiple. He has leveled up, and not just once. A warm surge of energy courses through his body, knitting together wounds, easing exhaustion, restoring him as if the battle had never happened. He stares at the glowing status window in disbelief. "Oh, level 9, he blurts out, barely containing his excitement as the raw stats of his Knight of Conquest subclass surge powerfully through his veins. The increase isn't subtle. It feels tangible, solid, heavy, like his body just got upgraded behind his back. Unfortunately, the golden spectacle didn't exactly go unnoticed. Princess Caitlin's voice cuts cleanly through the fading light, her floating image still shimmering faintly. "Shutra, are you okay? What was that light just now?" For a single heartbeat, Shutra freezes. His mind races, fast, very fast. "Oh, that," he stammers, glancing at the golden embers still drifting lazily through the cavern air. Think. Do not mention the system. Do not mention the system." He quickly pivots. He claims it was a rare blessing that occasionally manifests for his kind. Caitlin narrows her eyes, her silhouette framed against the remnants of flame and light. "A blessing? From the Gandharva?" Shutra offers a stiff, nervous nod. "Yes, sure, let's go with that. Please accept it." She remains skeptical, but ultimately lets it slide. However, she doesn't let him off that easily. "You handled those monsters expertly. Have you fought these creatures before? Your responses were pretty skillful." Shutra immediately puts on his best innocent expression, textbook model student face, and lies with flawless confidence. He tells her he simply read about them in books. Internally, though, he's smirking. As a former pro player of Night Saga, he has farmed those stone spiders thousands of times. Their movement patterns, their aggro behavior, their poison timing, he could fight them blindfolded at this point. Reading books? Sure, let's call it extensive research. Before Caitlin can press further, Karak's deep voice rumbles through the cavern. "Prince, look over there." He points toward a hidden corner of the cave. The group turns and freezes. Embedded directly into the cavern wall stands a colossal, ornate stone door. Its surface is covered in intricate ancient runes carved deep into the rock. It looks old, very old. With a combined effort, they push. The heavy doors grind open with a thunderous scrape of stone against stone, echoing through the hollow chambers like the awakening of something long asleep. As they step inside, Shutra's breath catches. "Huh? This is..." Before them lies a massive circular platform embedded into the floor, glowing faintly with a soft blue pulse. Intricate geometric patterns form perfect symmetry across its surface. "A town portal?" Shutra gasps. Karak glances at him, sweat still visible on his brow. "You know what that is?" Shutra reins in his excitement. "Calm, do not look like you've seen this before." "I have a guess." he replies carefully. He recognizes the craftsmanship immediately. The geometric layering, the rune spacing, this is unmistakably dwarven design. He recalls that when he played as the villain Zephyr, he never encountered these hidden relics, but when playing as a hero character, he used them frequently, and he knows exactly how to activate it.
I think if you inject mana into it, it activates, he says quietly. Caitlin and Sarah step closer, studying the platform. They wonder aloud where such a portal could lead. Karak's voice calls again. Prince, over here. I think there are letters carved. They gather around a nearby stone tablet etched into the wall. The script is blocky, ancient, foreign. Caitlin frowns. This isn't demon common. When Karak asks if she can read it, she snaps, "Why would I know dwarven script?" Even Sarah shakes her head apologetically. She can't decipher it either. Shutra steps forward. As his eyes focus on the stone, ding! Dwarven language level 1, acquired. The once meaningless scratches suddenly reorganize themselves into clear, readable text. Gishga Mountains, portal number 2, Shutra reads aloud evenly. The group falls silent. And it's connected to portal number 3. Caitlin stares at him slowly. Shutra, since when could you read Dwarven? He smoothly moves to the next line of text, strategically ignoring that question. I think it says that if you infuse mana, it will activate. Then he glances at her with a faintly mischievous look. Could you inject a little mana here? She crosses her arms immediately. Why me? Why don't you do it yourself? Shutra gives her the most helpless shrug he can manage. Well, I'm still clumsy with it. I can't use mana at all, actually. Technically true, conveniently true. Caitlin sighs sharply. Fine. She places her hand on the central orb. Thuck! A thunderous sound reverberates through the chamber. The portal orb erupts in a breathtaking explosion of blue light. Energy surges upward and outward, flooding the room. Then, a massive 3D wireframe map materializes in midair. The cavern is bathed in an ethereal digital glow as the geography of the surrounding region forms in precise detail. This is the Gishga Mountains? Caitlin gasps. Shutra points toward a glowing dot on the holographic display. This dot is our current location, and portal number 3 should be right here. Karak's eyes widen instantly. The main forces of the Scarlet Lightning tribe are stationed directly in front of those mountains. Shutra's smirk returns, sharp and strategic. Exactly. With this, we can strike them from behind. The tactical advantage is undeniable. Recognizing the magnitude of the discovery, Caitlin makes a decision. For now, let's stop here and return. I need to discuss this carefully with my brother. They regroup and head back to camp. News of the portal spreads rapidly, igniting excitement throughout the ranks. Inside the royal tent, the 7th prince, Chris Moonlight, is practically roaring with laughter. He slams a hand onto Shutra's shoulders so hard it nearly knocks the air out of him. Shutra, you're really a blessing. Chris is beyond pleased. So pleased, in fact, that he offers Shutra any reward within his power to grant. As long as it's something I can do, I'll grant it. His golden hair glimmers under the lamplight. Shutra tries to decline politely, but Chris refuses. No, as your leader, and someone older, I want to reward you. His smile shifts slightly, a little firmer. If you refuse, my feelings will be hurt. Emotional damage strategy activated. Shutra inhales slowly. Opportunities like this do not come twice. Is it okay, even if it's a bit unreasonable?
Chris's curiosity sharpens. Unreasonable? Now I'm even more curious. The tent falls quiet. Can you teach me the beast god fist art? Chris's smile disappears instantly. What? Shutra explains quickly. At his current level, heavy weapons aren't optimal yet. But techniques, That's different. The Beast God Fist art is an S-rank martial art passed down through the lycanthropy royal family, a pinnacle combat style. He knows it's an outrageous request. He's already bracing for rejection. It's okay. I figured from the start it wouldn't be possible. He closes his eyes. All right, I'll teach you. Silence. Shutra's eyes snap open. Huh? Chris clarifies, he cannot teach the most guarded secret techniques of the style, but he can teach Shutra how to properly manipulate the aura required to begin learning it. So, how about that? Is this a good enough gift? Shutra is completely stunned. Caitlin smirks lightly. What's wrong? Don't like it? No, not at all. It's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Chris's expression softens, becoming serious. Shutra. He reaches out, warmth genuine in his gaze. From now on, I can think of you as my brother, right? The word lands heavier than Shutra expected. Brother. In a world filled with betrayal and death, that word carries weight. A small, sincere smile forms on his lips. Well, fine. I don't dislike the idea. In fact, I rather like it. The three siblings stand together, a new unity solidifying between them. Let's work together from now on, Shutra says. Ding. Alliance established with Chris Moonlight and Caitlin Moonlight. But as the sun sets beyond the jagged mountain peaks, the scene shifts. Deep within the Scarlet Lightning tribe encampment, red-skinned orcs stand guard around a flickering ritual circle. The atmosphere is dark, oppressive. A sinister voice growls from the shadows, mocking someone unseen. You wouldn't have come here targeting this place from the start. The shadows recede, revealing a chilling sight. The sixth princess, Felicia Doomblade, kneels bound by glowing magical ropes. Her movements are restrained, her position forced. The enemy leader looms over her, eyes filled with malice. Our princess, what brings you here? The war has only just begun.
Shutra sits alone inside his tent, the dim lantern light flickering softly against the canvas walls. In front of him, the glowing holographic interface of his system hovers quietly, reflecting in his crimson eyes. His brow furrows as he carefully analyzes his progress. Most of his combat-related stats are sitting comfortably at 21, solid, balanced, reliable. But then there's charisma, stuck at 17. He exhales slowly. His growth has been explosive, no doubt about that, but something has clearly shifted in how his stats increase. In the early stages, each level up granted balanced improvements across the board. Now, his charisma crawls upward by a single point at a time, like it's rationing itself. He recalls how it worked in the original Night Saga. Appearance and charisma were completely separate attributes. Appearance determines how physically beautiful a character looks. Charisma, on the other hand, measures how naturally likable and influential they are. So technically, he might look impressive. But whether people actually like him, that's a stat issue. Still, he isn't discouraged. His overall growth rate remains absurdly fast, and more importantly, he's approaching a major milestone, level 10. In the game's lore, when the protagonists, Zephyr and Locke, reached level 10, their unique skills evolved. Descendant of Darkness and the Chosen One ascended to higher tiers. Shutra's crimson eyes flicker with anticipation. If he crosses into double digits, will one of his own hidden skills awaken? The thought alone makes his pulse quicken. The tent flap suddenly shifts.
Prince! Carrick's massive figure appears at the entrance, his sharp eyes observing the focused energy in the tent. Shutra immediately closes the system windows with a subtle motion, the holographic glow fading from view. Everything is ready. Yes, Shutra replies smoothly, a confident half-smirk forming. Let's depart.
As they step outside, Carrick notes that the prince seems unusually cheerful today. Shutra simply walks past him, composed, saying nothing. No need to explain the excitement of potential skill evolution to an orc general at sunrise. Outside, the sight is overwhelming. A massive sea of iron orcs stands in perfect formation, silent, armored. Their polished gear gleams under the bright mountain sky. Thousands of warriors await a single command. Shutra takes his position at the front of the formation, looking out over the army. "All right, let's get going." His voice carries cleanly across the ranks, firm and commanding. The army begins to march, boots and heavy footsteps rumbling in unison as they move deeper into the jagged, snow-capped peaks of the Gishka Mountains. Eventually, they arrive at a hidden opening carved into the rock face, a cavern that hums faintly with ancient energy. Steel clashes echo briefly as the path is secured. Then they stand once more before the colossal dwarven doors, etched with intricate runes. Chris Moonlight and Princess Caitlin take their positions beside Shutra as the heavy stone doors groan open. Inside lies a sanctum bathed in soft blue magical light. Chris turns to Sarah, the wolf-like lycanthrope investigator, examining a pulsing orb of energy. "Have you finished your investigation?" Sarah looks up confidently. "Yes, just as you said, this portal connects to the Eska River of the Gishka Mountains." Chris's eyes sharpen. That's exactly the strategic edge they need. "And it's functioning?" "Despite its age, dwarven craftsmanship is sturdy," Sarah confirms. With that, Chris gives the order. The portal activates fully. A blinding vortex of swirling blue light erupts across the room. Shutra stands frozen for a moment, staring. "I can't believe I'm seeing a gate in real life," he whispers, the gamer inside him struggling to process that this isn't a loading screen. Caitlin notices his hesitation. "What are you waiting for?" "Oh, right, I'm coming." He steps into the radiance. The transition is instantaneous. In the next breath, they stand on a high rocky ridge overlooking a massive valley. The sudden shift in air, light, and temperature catches Shutra slightly off guard. Below them stretches a sprawling military encampment. Chris stands at the cliff's edge, wind tugging at his blonde hair. Good, just as I expected. There's their encampment. He estimates roughly 5,000 troops stationed there. Without delay, he outlines the strategy. The priority is the enemy's supplies. If General Bandal launches a frontal distraction, Shutra's infiltrating units can slip in from behind and burn their food stores. Clean, efficient, devastating. But Caitlin frowns. Doesn't something seem strange?" Chris scans the camp more carefully. She's right. There aren't nearly enough visible soldiers for a 5,000-man force. The camp feels thin, empty. "Where did they all go?" Chris mutters. "Could they have already started an attack?" Suddenly, ksh! A sharp sound cuts through the mountain air. Shutra's head snaps toward it immediately. In the distance, a cloud of dust rises, and faint flashes of combat shimmer between cliffs. "Sounds like a battle," Shutra mutters. Chris turns to him. "Shutra, focus your aura on your eyes." Shutra channels his energy, directing it carefully. His vision sharpens, stretching outward across the valley. I can see it." A brutal skirmish is unfolding below. On one side, the Scarlet Lightning Tribe's red-skinned warriors fight with savage ferocity. On the other side, smaller figures, faster, mounted on scaled, dragon-like creatures. "Dark elves?" Chris says, confused. "These aren't Bandal's forces, and there wasn't supposed to be a battle today." Shutra watches closely. The scale of the fight is limited, not a full war. It feels like a targeted clash, desperate, precise. A silver-haired warrior moves through the battlefield with lethal grace, cutting down red orcs in swift arcs of motion. But numbers matter. The Dark Elves begin signaling retreat. They mount their Dracos and pull back at incredible speed, vanishing into the mountain passes. Chris wonders if their commander fell or if they were simply overwhelmed.
As dust settles over the battlefield, Shutra narrows his eyes. Why would dark elves be here? Later that evening, the army establishes camp. Inside the command tent, a holographic communication terminal flickers to life. The massive, tusked face of General Bandel materializes in blue light. He has already heard about the portal. "How did you know there would be a portal here?" he asks, impressed. Shutra watches him quietly. For some reason, seeing the general again feels reassuring. Bandel promises that Shutra will be properly rewarded once they reach the Demon King's castle. But Chris moves straight to the real issue. What about the skirmish? Bandel confirms it was an independent Dark Elf unit. They likely intended to scout the area before the situation spiraled out of control. Then his expression darkens. "We have a bigger issue." The tent falls silent. The leader of that independent Dark Elf unit was captured by the Scarlet Lightning tribe. Chris immediately understands. The battle they witnessed was a failed rescue attempt. Shutra steps forward, voice tight. "Wait, who exactly is the commander of that independent unit?" Bandel's eyes narrow. "It's someone you know well." A pause. "It's the 6th princess, Felicia Doomblade." The words land like a physical blow. "Your sister." Caitlin and Chris stand motionless, faces drained of color. The war is no longer distant. It just became personal.
Meet Felicia Doomblade, the 6th princess of the Dark Elves and the twin sister of Sylvan Doomblade. In the context of the game, she and Sylvan were members of the faction belonging to the 4th princess, Anastasia Necrian, which is why the protagonist's impression of her has always been that of a bitter enemy. Looking at her image, Shutra wonders why she has suddenly appeared here and if she is interfering just to claim merit for herself. Meanwhile, Chris, a massive, muscular warrior, wonders if the Scarlet Lightning bastards even realize the dark elf they've captured is actually Felicia. The group consults a magical projection of a red-skinned orc who admits they haven't been able to confirm her identity yet. When asked about the next move, the orc suggests that if they can save her, they will, or they can at least talk if the enemy makes the first move. Chris remains stoic, making it clear he has absolutely no intention of bowing down to the enemy first. The orc general agrees to gather more information and promises to contact them if anything changes. As the transmission cuts out, the gravity of the capture settles on the group. Chris scoffs, noting that their oh-so-brilliant older sister has managed to become a prisoner. Caitlin immediately pushes back, insisting they have to save her if she's still alive, but Chris warns that a rescue attempt won't be easy. He points out they could suffer heavy losses themselves just trying to reach her. Caitlin isn't having it, slamming her fist and shouting that they have to save her because she is their sister. Chris stares at her in silence as a bead of sweat rolls down his face. Shutra acknowledges the bond but senses the mounting tension between his siblings. He watches them both closely, wondering what's really going on behind Chris's hesitation. Outside, the sun hangs over the mountains as Beastmen guards patrol the encampment. Inside the command tent, Chris declares that the plan is simple. General Bandal will lure out the Scarlet Lightning tribe's main force, allowing Shutra's forces to strike their encampment from behind. Chris plans to charge straight into the center of the base to cause as much chaos as possible, while Caitlin and Shutra lead their own squads to carry out the mission. That mission involves burning the enemy's food storage and armory before finally rescuing Felicia. Chris adds a cold warning: if it becomes too dangerous, they are to retreat immediately because they can't afford to lose more lives just for Felicia. Caitlin is outraged, screaming at her brother for being so heartless toward their own family. Shutra watches the exchange, noting that Chris doesn't seem very intent on rescuing Felicia at all. He can't help but wonder if something happened between the two of them in the past. Night falls, and the heavy boots of an army begin to march toward the enemy. The warriors charge forward, fueled by the desire to annihilate the Scarlet Lightning tribe. From a high cliff, Chris and his orc subordinates look down at the enemy encampment spread out below. Torches flicker in the dark as sentries patrol the perimeter of the tents. Chris narrows his eyes, his gaze locking onto the target. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocks the enemy base, sending fire and debris into the air. Scarlet Lightning warriors are tossed aside by the sheer force of the blast. Bandal leads the charge, his massive axe swinging as his orcs tear into the confused defenders. With glowing red eyes, the general roars a single order to kill them all. On the tactical map, Shutra's forces wait for their opening as the main battle rages. An orc asks why they aren't moving yet, but Shutra tells him to wait for the signal. Blood and steel clash as the orcs engage in brutal hand-to-hand combat. Bandal stands in the center of the carnage, a terrifying force of nature. He stares down the enemy with cold intensity. Then, a massive wall of fire erupts, the signal they've been waiting for. From their vantage point, they watch the enemy camp burn. Chris turns to his troops, telling everyone to get ready to move. Caitlin and Shutra nod, prepared to carry out the mission exactly as planned. With a deafening roar, the entire force charges down the slope. The defenders are caught completely off guard as the second wave hits. Orcs and werewolves tear through the perimeter, leaving nothing but chaos in their wake. Caitlin tells Shutra to be careful, and he quickly returns the sentiment as they push deeper into the camp. Shutra activates his magical map, scanning for their primary targets. He orders his squad to move left and dash straight for the food storage. The orcs let out a battle cry, promising to kill anyone in their way. The fighting is frantic as they cut a path through the enemy red orcs. A red orc lunges at Karak, catching him by surprise. Before the beast can strike, a glowing projectile hits it square in the head. A notification pops up revealing that Shutra has used his level 1 dagger throwing skill to strike the target. He smirks, clearly pleased with the result. Karak is stunned, asking when the prince learned how to throw daggers like that. Shutra casually replies that it's nothing special, he just tried tossing a dagger last night and somehow gained the skill on the spot. They finally arrive at the food storage, and Karak asks if they should just set the whole thing on fire. Shutra hesitates, realizing that if Felicia is locked up inside, she could get caught in the flames and die. He insists they have to find her first, even though Karak has no idea how they'll locate her in the middle of a battle. Shutra brings up the map again, searching for a specific signature. He reasons that since Felicia should register as a neutral NPC, she will be marked as either blue or purple on his display. Suddenly, he spots a mark and his eyes go wide. He shouts for Karak to follow him and sprints toward a nearby tent. With a violent tear, he rips open the entrance. He bursts inside, frantically looking around for his sister. He stops in his tracks as he sees a figure in the shadows. There, bound by glowing red magical chains that pulse with energy, sits the sixth princess herself. Felicia Doomblade looks up in shock, asking Shutra what he is doing there. Her question hung in the air, unanswered, because in that same instant, from the other side of the chains, Shutra was already moving. Shutra finally finds the sixth princess, Felicia Doomblade, bound in the dim light of a tent by glowing magical chains. He doesn't waste time with explanations, telling her they can talk later and she just needs to stay still. As he works on the restraints, he knows the place is dangerous, but he thinks to himself that if he can get Felicia indebted to him now, it will be incredibly useful for his plans later. Felicia remains silent, watching him with an unreadable expression as she is freed. They barely manage to slip out into the night and begin their escape. Shutra tells her they need to hurry and regroup with Chris and Caitlin, which only adds to Felicia's confusion. She stops, asking in disbelief if Chris and Caitlin actually came to rescue her. Shutra is slightly annoyed, asking if she really thought they wouldn't come for their own sister. Felicia tries to mention the power struggle Shutra has been away from, but she's cut off as an orc soldier bellows a warning that the enemy is swarming their position. Shutra tells her to get over here quickly, and she finds herself following him, though she's struck by the fact that he's suddenly calling her by her name. The quiet of the night is shattered as they run. Felicia yells a warning about something behind him, but she's too late to stop the ambush. A massive explosion of light hits Shutra square in the chest, sending him reeling as he coughs up blood. A towering pillar of fire erupts where he stood, and Felicia screams his name in a panic. Through the smoke, the enemy closes in. A massive red warrior lunges at the princess with a guttural roar, and Felicia tenses up, preparing to defend herself. Suddenly, a surge of power shifts the atmosphere. Felicia stares in shock as a figure emerges from the dissipating flames. Notifications flash before Shutra's eyes. He has officially acquired level 1 mana control and level 1 fire arrow. He looks up with a confident smirk, completely unfazed by the previous attack. He draws back a glowing bow of mana, and a barrage of flaming arrows streaks through the night. The arrows tear into the orc ranks with explosive force, scattering the attackers. Shutra can't help but laugh. Even at level 1, using actual magic is an incredible rush. However, the celebration is short-lived when a sudden blast of frost shatters nearby. Shutra looks at the jagged shards of ice on the ground and realizes a new threat has arrived. A red orc mage is perched on a wooden watchtower, already drawing back a shimmering ice arrow. Realizing the mage is aiming directly at Felicia, Shutra yells for her to stay back. He throws himself into the line of fire, his gaze hardening. Felicia can only watch in shock as her brother protects her. Shutra faces down the incoming ice shards, deciding that this victory, and this target, is his. A massive collision of magic follows, rocking the area. When the mist clears, Shutra has acquired level 1 ice arrow. But the exertion takes its toll instantly, and Shutra collapses to his knees as his vision blurs. A notification warns him that his health has plummeted to a critical 13 out of 95, putting him in extreme danger. He knows that one more hit like that will be the end of him. A shadow falls over him, and he looks up to see Felicia standing with her arms crossed. She looks down at him with pure judgment and asks who exactly asked him to save her. She reminds him that he's the weakest of all their siblings, so she wonders who he thinks needs saving. Shutra is floored by her attitude, wondering what the hell is wrong with her. She asks when he even learned magic, pointing out that she was the one who actually took down the mage in the tower. Shutra realizes there's been a massive misunderstanding, as she thinks she was the one who saved him. Before he can argue, a green light begins to pulse around him. Felicia reaches out, and a soft glow envelopes him, healing the deep gash on his chest instantly. He has just acquired the level 1 heal skill. The genius mage tells him he should feel better now that his blood has been replenished. Shutra is still trying to wrap his head around her comment when a deafening, monstrous roar shakes the entire camp. They turn toward the source of the sound and see a massive, muscular red beast wreathed in dark energy. Felicia identifies it as a blood ogre, a terrifying mutated species. They both stand frozen, realizing that this hulking nightmare is the only thing standing between them and freedom. As the beast charges, Shutra looks at the towering monster and wonders how the hell they are supposed to fight something like that. There was no time left to wonder. The blood ogre lunges forward with a speed that defies its massive size, its roar shaking the very ground. Shutra can barely believe how fast the beast is moving, his face breaking into a cold sweat as the monster closes the distance. Felicia commands him to buy her some time so she can blow the beast away with her magic, but Shutra is understandably skeptical, shouting back to ask how on earth he's supposed to hold off a nightmare like that. The earth erupts in a massive cloud of dust as the ogre strikes. Resigned to the task, Shutra yells that he'll aggro the beast somehow while she prepares her spell. Felicia, totally confused by the gamer terminology, asks what aggro even means, but Shutra just snaps that it's a thing and tells her to just get moving. Shutra calls out for Karak, who appears instantly to support him. Shutra tells his subordinate they're doing this just like last time, and Karak is more than ready to engage. Quickly opening his magical display, Shutra pulls a dwarven dagger from his inventory. With a sudden strike, the momentum of the battle shifts as the blade hums with energy. Karak leaps forward under the king's banner, his eyes glowing with a fierce light as he prepares a massive strike with his cleaver. The blood ogre is caught completely off guard, its eyes widening in shock as Karak delivers a brutal, heavy-hitting blow. The monster roars in agony, but it's still standing. Felicia begins to glow with a shimmering pink aura, finally ready to unleash her magic. She shouts a single command, "Grease." Suddenly, a slippery magical film covers the ground beneath the ogre's feet. The massive beast loses its footing entirely, its legs sliding out from under it as it falls backward with a panicked roar. Seeing the perfect opening, Karak leaps high into the air once more. He roars that this is the end, slamming down with enough force to create a massive pillar of light that finishes the beast for good. As the smoke clears, Shutra lets out a sigh of relief, laughing as he realizes they actually won. While there are still other enemies in the camp, the most troublesome threat has finally been taken care of. Suddenly, a familiar golden glow surrounds him. A notification pops up, Shutra has finally reached level 10. He smirks, feeling the surge of power that comes with the milestone. He decides it's time to open his gift box reward, and a new notification appears. He's acquired a new passive skill called Battlefield Protection. He realizes this is essentially the Stormtrooper effect, a legendary form of plot armor where every projectile aimed at the protagonist miraculously misses by just a hair. But the respite is short-lived as a swarm of red orcs begins to charge toward them, their roars filling the night. Felicia yells at Shutra, asking what he's doing while the enemies are swarming their position. She looks determined, her eyes glowing as she prepares to reveal the true extent of her power. She calls out to the wind, commanding it to whirl and rage. A massive vortex of air begins to swirl around Shutra, tossing the orcs aside like ragdolls. Shutra realizes that Felicia isn't just a brilliant mage, she was born a spirit summoner, capable of calling upon elemental entities. As he watches her unleash a devastating spiral of spirit energy that consumes the battlefield, he can't help but smirk, wondering if he can eventually reach a level where he can command power like that for himself. His thoughts are interrupted by a bright, shimmering light streaking across the sky, a magical flare that catches the attention of every orc in the vicinity. The atmosphere shifts instantly as the massive commander, Karak, identifies the yellow flare as the signal for a total retreat. But Shutra is too focused on the signal to care, asking why they would possibly be retreating now. He looks out over the battlefield, sensing that something is wrong and wondering if one of his siblings is in genuine danger. Karak asks for his final orders, and Shutra decides to split the party, telling Karak to take the main body of troops and fall back to safety. Karak is stunned when Shutra announces that he isn't retreating with them, instead, he needs to head straight toward Caitlin. Karak tries to argue, insisting on coming along to protect him, but Shutra stands firm, telling his subordinate that there must be a reason for the retreat and to just follow orders for once. Suddenly, Felicia steps forward from the shadows, declaring that she will be the one to accompany Shutra. She admits that she absolutely hates owing people, and since Shutra just rescued her, she wants the immediate chance to repay that debt. Besides, she adds with a cold glare, she still has some unfinished business with those pigs in the enemy camp. Karak reluctantly agrees, telling the prince to be careful and promising that the rest of the army will be waiting for them above. As Shutra and Felicia sprint through the burning camp, she asks if he really needs to go through all this trouble for Caitlin. Shutra explains that the sudden retreat order is incredibly suspicious and he fears Caitlin might have been caught in a trap. He hopes that isn't the case so they can all make it back together, but Felicia notes that he seems genuinely worried about her. Shutra simply says she is his sister so his concern is only natural, even if he privately thinks it's more about the necessity of their alliance. Felicia looks at him skeptically, repeating the phrase, only natural, as they reach the heart of the enemy lines. They find the camp in absolute ruins, with red orcs littering the ground. It turns out Shutra's worries were misplaced, as Caitlin is already in the middle of a one-woman massacre. She moves like a blur, her purple hair whipping through the air as she uses devastating martial arts to crush any orc that gets close. Her eyes glow with a fierce intensity as she gathers her spirit energy, unleashing a massive, explosive shockwave that clears the entire area in a single blast. She performs a powerful spinning strike, creating a wave of force that cuts through multiple enemies at once, leaving nothing but carnage in her wake. Shutra and Felicia arrive just in time to see the dust settle around the victorious princess. Felicia can't help but smirk, noting that there was clearly nothing to worry about after all. Caitlin is surprised to see them, asking why they didn't retreat, and Shutra stammers through an explanation about coming to save her. Before he can finish his sentence, Caitlin lets out a joyful cry and sprints past him, pulling Felicia into a massive, crushing hug. She's overjoyed that her sister is safe, and while Felicia tries to maintain her cool, acting like Caitlin is worrying too much, she can't hide the blush on her face. Shutra watches them, realizing the two of them are actually quite close. However, his magical map begins to beep with a frantic warning that the enemies are circling back to pin them down. Shutra takes the lead, ordering a quick retreat while the sisters cover the rear. They sprint toward the extraction point, where a massive, glowing blue portal awaits them. One by one, they step through the shimmering energy and emerge safely back at the main base. Karak is waiting for them on the other side, looking at Shutra with newfound respect and wondering when the prince changed so much. The group finally reunites with the rest of the forces, and Caitlin excitedly calls out to her brother Chris, announcing that she has successfully brought Felicia back to the fold. Chris, the massive and stoic warrior, stands before them, his blue eyes locking onto Felicia. The reunion is anything but warm. Felicia looks at him with a distant expression, and Chris simply acknowledges her presence, noting that it has indeed been a long time. Later that night, the group huddles in a dimly lit cave to discuss the aftermath of the battle. Chris reports that General Bandle's side won their skirmish and the enemy chief, Yakuzan, abandoned the fight after seeing his camp burn. Shutra is surprised he's already forgotten the chief's name, but Chris stays focused on the mission. He explains that Yakuzan didn't surrender, he simply fled to regroup, which is why they must strike the forces of Kairam, the older brother of their previous enemy, first thing tomorrow. If Yakuzan joins them, the coming battle will be a significant headache. Chris then turns the conversation toward Felicia, asking what exactly brought her all the way out here in the first place. She claims she was simply researching ruins nearby when she heard about the battle and got captured while trying to help. Chris leans in, his expression hardening as he asks if that is truly the whole story. They lock eyes in a tense standoff until Chris eventually sighs, telling her she's clearly had a rough time and they should leave the questioning for another day. He orders everyone to rest, and the soldiers settle down to eat by the fire. Shutra takes a moment to check his progress, opening his status window and admiring his new collection of level 1 skills, mana control, fire arrow, ice arrow, and heal. He feels good about his growth, even if he realizes that the only truly useful skill for the physical combat he's facing tomorrow is his aura. He is interrupted by a soft voice outside his tent as Felicia asks if she can come in for a moment. Shutra notices she has completely changed into more formal, elegant clothes and asks what could possibly bring her here at such a late hour. Felicia walks closer, her boots clicking on the stone floor until she stands directly in front of him. With a serious look in her eyes and a faint blush on her cheeks, she commands him to take off his clothes.